All right. Hello and welcome to the Fulbright Getting Started workshop. I am Heidi Bretz. I am one of the National Fellowships coordinators here at USC, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to get started on your personal statement and your statement of grant purpose, the major essays in your Fulbright application. So to begin, I wanted to go over the goals of our session today. So the first goal is to explore your interests, goals, and experiences as they might relate to Fulbright. To help you understand the different requirements and styles of the personal statement and the statement of grant purpose. And finally, to brainstorm content for your essays. As we begin to interact together as Fulbright participants, these sessions are intended to be very collaborative and to help you all to connect to each other as well. And we will be doing maybe peer editing or other interactions along the line. So just wanted to lay down some groundwork for interacting with one another in this space. First off, make sure that when you are looking at other folks' applications or essays, that you're offering constructive feedback, not criticism, so that you're looking for ways to help others to improve their writing, to answer questions, to maybe clarify things. Again, all with that spirit of being constructive and helping them to create the best application they can. Ask follow-up questions. Make sure that you're staying engaged, you're listening. If there are points of clarity that you need, if there are things that you want to know more about, make sure that you're asking those questions. That can spark some really good conversations and help make your application even better. Remember that you are the author of your own story. As you get further and further into this Fulbright process, you may find that you're getting conflicting feedback. One person wants you to do one thing, another thing, and it all can get a little bit jumbled and confusing. So remembering that you are the ultimate author of your story. This is your application and you are in full control of what you say, how you say it, what you include, what you don't. The feedback, again, is something that as part of the process, you need to learn to sort through. So that's something we can help you with in figuring out kind of which feedback might be the most helpful for you. We'll offer our suggestions based on our experiences, but you, in the end, are the person putting your name on this application, and it should be your story and true and authentic to who you are and what you're hoping to do. Stay curious. If you find as you're going through this process that there's maybe emotions that come up, follow those emotions. Be curious about what that might be telling you about your application, about your interests, about your Fulbright aspirations. So really being curious and engaging with those things and being willing to ask others to be curious about their stories as well. Try new things, play around, especially in these early drafts, in these brainstorming phases. This is where you can play around with how you do things, what you're including, what you're not, and really just kind of come at it with that playful attitude. It'll make the process feel a little less daunting if you're coming at it from a curious and playful mindset. And embrace the messiness of the process. I don't think there's been a single author on this planet who has churned out a perfect first draft. They don't exist. So really being open to kind of playing around again, getting in the mud puddles of your application, of your essays, and really knowing that things are going to change and shift as you move through these next few months of the process. So being willing to engage in that and understanding that nothing is going to be perfect the first time, probably won't be perfect the last time, but what we can do is engage with and improve our essays. Act with and assume good intent. So when you give people feedback, do it with good intentions and assume that if you're getting a piece of feedback, that it is meant with that same good intention. As you go through this process, you may enter into conversation with others that maybe brings up something personal or brings up certain stories. So as you go through that, take the learning that you got from those experiences, from those conversations, but leave the names out of it. It's the Vegas rule. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, so make sure that you're protecting other people's confidentiality by leaving out names and specifics and sharing when you're sharing that learning. And then as we go through this, you are welcome to recommend other group norms that you think would be helpful as we go through this process together. When we're thinking about writing specifically for Fulbright, we're talking about two main essays, the statement of grant purpose and the personal statement. This is going to be the bulk of your application. This is going to be what you're going to be spending probably most of your time on as a Fulbright applicant. So what are these two things? So the first essay is the personal statement. So this is a one-page, single type, 12-point, times 0 font, 1-inch margins page that really tells the why of your Fulbright application. Why are you interested in the things that you're interested in? Where did that passion come from? What are you hoping to do in the future, and how does it all connect? So this is really the why of your Fulbright application. Because many Fulbright awards do not interview their candidates, this is kind of a written interview. They actually used to call it the written interview. And so this is how your National Selection Committee members and the Fulbright commissioners in your host country are going to get to know you as a person beyond what you're hoping to do with Fulbright, but who you are and what you bring to Fulbright from your wonderful life experiences and interests. And it gives context to your interests and goals. So if you grew up cooking in your grandmother's kitchen and she was Bulgarian, that can help explain why you're interested in going to Bulgaria, those types of things. Personal statement can be a little bit more informal. That's where you can kind of play around with format within reason and context and using anecdotes or dialogue. That's where you can be a little bit more creative in telling your story. The statement of grant purpose is the meat and potatoes of what you're hoping to do with your Fulbright award. So for ETAs, English teaching assistants, it is 1 page. And for study and research candidate, it is 2 pages. So this is where you're going to explain the what, the where, and the how of your application. So what are you hoping to do? Where are you going to do it? And how does it connect to your past experiences, current interests, and future goals? Your plan and proposal should be clear and feasible. That's really important for Fulbright, is that it is clear what you're hoping to do and why you want to do it and how doing it in this specific location is going to make sense. Again, it's all about making it make sense for people. And then feasibility. Is it going to be a realistic thing? If you are planning to go and conduct interviews of, I don't know, German mothers, like, do you speak German? Do you know someone who speaks German? What's the way you're going to interact with these folks? So really thinking about the feasibility of your application and making sure that that's clear to the readers. Again, make it make sense. And it should also connect what you'll do abroad to your future goals. Why is Fulbright your next logical step? Why is this the thing that you're doing next? How will this help you prepare you for the step after that? I'm going to skip this portion for the recording purposes, and I'm going to give you a couple of prompts that you can look at your own time for doing brainstorming for Fulbright. So the only way to learn is by playing, the only way to win is by learning, and the only way to begin is by beginning. This is one of my favorite quotes from a game show called Game Changer. And basically, again, the only way to begin is by beginning. So let's begin. So reflect on the answers that you gave during your appreciative interview. Again, I'll share these questions in the PowerPoint. And then think about doing a free write on one or more of these topics. So your strengths, your weaknesses, watershed moments in your life, mentors, or reasons behind your academic and professional interests. So take a pause, take 5 minutes, jot that down, don't censor yourself, just put some things on paper. So after you've done your drafting, we're going to switch the focus a little bit to Fulbright in particular. So now let's think about Fulbright. Take 5 minutes and what you've already written and answer these following questions. So where are you proposing to go? If you don't know, put a few different locations, different areas, or focus on one of the other questions. What are you proposing to do? Again, if you know where you're going, but not quite what you're doing, same rule applies. Either focus on one of the questions or spend some time brainstorming things that you could do. And then finally, how will what you're proposing help you reach your academic or professional goals? What are your academic and professional goals? And how does Fulbright fit into that? So take 5 minutes and do some brainstorming on these 3 questions. So as you go through the Fulbright drafting process, I find a really helpful tool is the 5 whys. So 5 whys basically is what it sounds like. You ask yourself why 5 times, and that can help you to discover deeper motivations for doing things. It can help you to articulate things in a different way that might be helpful as you're going through the Fulbright application process. So for example, you can start with, I want to spend a year abroad before I go to med school. Very popular. People do gap years all the time. Why? Well, I had a great time in Chile during study abroad. Okay. Why did you have a good time? I really improved my language skills. Okay. Why was that important to you? Being a culturally competent doctor is important to me. Oh, great. Why is that? Because I want to be able to care for all patients and reduce medical errors for Spanish-speaking patients. Awesome. There's your reason for Fulbright. And again, you can do it starting with a location. I want to go to France. Okay, cool. Why? I love the food. Who doesn't? And I speak French. Great. Why do you speak French? Well, I have a heritage connection. I studied it in high school because my grandmother is French. Okay, why is that important to you? I want to understand where I come from. Why is that important? Because I want to understand the differences between the US and France and use it in my future career, in my life, to help build relationships. Awesome, great. There's your Fulbright reason. And finally, you can start with the program. I found a really cool program at the University of Paris. Well, why do you want to go there? It provides an opportunity to work with leading faculty in the field. Why is that important for you? I'll learn new techniques that I couldn't learn elsewhere. Great. Why is that good? My field is very collaborative and it's beneficial to have global contacts. Why? Because having a global perspective is necessary to solve pressing industry challenges. So you can see by asking yourself why multiple times, it can help you unearth deeper reasons for why you're hoping to do what you're hoping to do. And I find it really helpful as a tool when writing. So with Fulbright, the big thing is making the connection between you and why this thing and why this place. And this can look a lot of different ways. And again, you want to make it make sense. That's the biggest thing about Fulbright. Make it make sense and show that connection as clearly as you can. So for example, I want to do cutting edge research. Okay, why are you going to this place? Because it's one of the only labs specializing in this technique. Awesome, perfect, great reason to go. Makes sense. I want to teach. Okay, why do you want to teach in this location? I want to better understand differences between school systems in the US and Japan and incorporate that knowledge in my classroom. Great, makes sense. I want to get my master's. Okay, why? Where? The program has a unique focus that domestic programs don't offer. Okay, that makes sense why you're doing that. And then you can also do it the other way. So if you're thinking about why this place, well, I really want to build my language skills. Okay, well, why is that important? Why do you want to do this thing then? Because teaching English in a rural environment will allow me to practice my language and make it stronger. Awesome, makes sense. So really think about the way that you're connecting all of these pieces for your readers. So now what? You've got all of this information, you've got all these deep thoughts, you've got all these connections. What do you do next? So think about and take about 5 minutes to write about how the strengths, weaknesses, watershed moments that you wrote about in your first free write relate to your answers about the where, what, and how of your Fulbright. Take a few minutes and write about that. So you've done the now what, so what? So how does it all connect together? So I don't know if any of you are familiar with Mad Libs, but they are basically fill in the blanks for different types of topics. So we're going to do a fill in the blank. So take a moment and fill in these blanks. I'm interested in doing thing in location because why? I'm prepared for Fulbright because of my experience and interest in field of study or research. Fulbright will help me gain skill set to pursue goal. So take a moment and fill in those blanks for yourself. And congratulations, you just wrote a draft abstract, which you can use to help guide your Fulbright application. Again, everything at this point is very much about getting started, getting something on the page. This can change, and hopefully your drafts will change and evolve as you move through the Fulbright process. So use this as a guiding document, but again, play, enjoy the messiness. Nothing is written in stone as yet, so have some fun with it. So as you're moving into the Fulbright process, here are some pro tips from us on drafting your essays, working with them, generating content. So first off, save each draft as its own distinct document. So statement of grant purpose, draft 1, 2, or 3. This is helpful for a couple of reasons. One, it helps you keep things straight because you're going to have a lot of drafts that you're going to do, hopefully. The average is about, I would say, 5-ish drafts for each essay as you go into Fulbright. So again, revision, revision, revision. First draft is always going to need work. Again, no one has put together a perfect first draft, so expect that you will do this a couple of times. So having those distinct drafts will help you keep everything straight. It will also help you see how far you've come at the end of the process. You can look back on your first draft and smile and, see how far you've come in your final. And then finally, when you're doing these drafts, like each draft is going to look a little different. And so to capture that shift and also to make sure that you're not losing any of the material that you're generating, it's good to save them as separate drafts. So that way, if you're into draft 4 and you're like, oh, I know I said something perfectly in draft 1, then you can go back and say, how did I say that? Take the language, put it into draft 4. So that can be really helpful as you're going through the process. Compose all your essays in the word processor of your choice, not the online portal. You'll actually be uploading your essays, so go ahead and use Word, use Google Docs, use Pages, whatever makes sense for you to do your writing. When you start off, please don't worry about the length or the formatting or what goes under what essay. That usually isn't helpful when you're getting started. It seems to work better just to put everything on the page, just do a brain dump, they call it, and just put down everything you want Fulbright to know about you, everything you want to make sure makes it into your application, and then go back and start sorting like, oh, this might go in the statement of grant purpose, this might go in my personal statement. That usually is a more helpful way to approach things rather than trying to do the personal statement and then the statement of grant purpose and keeping those as two separate things in the beginning. This will help you see more connections. If you're having trouble writing, if that blank page is just really challenging for you, or for whatever reason, writing is just not your thing, try a text-to-speech software or record yourself. And you can even record yourself having a conversation with someone else if that helps you to articulate your goals, your interests, and your Fulbright aspirations. That can be really helpful if you're having trouble getting started on the actual writing process. Also, mind mapping is another really big thing. And being able to look at how different ideas intersect with one another in a little bit less linear fashion can be really helpful. There are resources in the Fulbright Teams files for that. When you send your drafts to either your National Fellowships advisors or to your FPAs, your faculty mentors, please send them as Word or Google documents. That tends to work better for editing. With PDFs, we have to save them as Word documents and then edit them and then send them back to you. So cut out the middle step and it'll make everyone's lives easier. So do one of those other types of documents. So for those of you who are interested in ChatGPT as a tool for writing, it can be very useful with some caveats. So you want to make sure that you keep a few things in mind. One, ChatGPT is an AI robot that uses predictive text. So basically it is guessing what the most likely next word is to formulate whatever sentences it's giving you. So it might give you some stuff that just doesn't make actual logical sense or isn't true. So just keeping that in mind. So if you tell them, oh, I'm interested in doing a geography degree in, I don't know, Portugal, it might spit out some information about you that's not true, or things about Portugal that are not true. So really just making sure that you're, taking everything with a grain of salt when you're looking at that. It can be useful for helping you to generate outlines, to generate ideas. You can ask it things, and the more descriptive you are, usually the better. You can ask it about, oh, what kinds of ways can I get involved in the community in Stockholm, Sweden? And it might give you some good ideas that you can then incorporate into your community engagement portion of your essays. So again, it can be used as a tool. Don't take anything obviously from it and then use it as your own writing. That's not working with authenticity and integrity, but also ChatGPT, because it is predictive, it's going to spit out very generic things, and you are not generic. Your experiences are not generic, and Fulbright is definitely not looking for generic essays. So taking everything with a grain of salt and using it as inspiration to talk about your authentic story is how you want to use that particular tool. And we're always happy to talk more about that if you have questions. or concerns about that. And do remember that it is a open source AI, so it may not be the best place to put super personal information because there is very little protection of data because it is open source, low security, used at your own risk. And then finally, your National Fellowships advisors are here to help you with brainstorming. We're happy to meet with you for half an hour, and just talk things through, do some writing exercises, do some brainstorming with you. We can also help with that. So what's next? So if you are watching this in the month of May 2023, then June 1st is going to be the next deadline for you. That's going to be when you'll want to submit a first draft of your personal statement and your statement of grant purpose to your FPA or to an NF advisor if you haven't been assigned an FPA yet. And again, this is a deadline that's meant to encourage you, to keep you on track for the August 16th campus deadline. So don't use this shouldn't be a stumbling block for you. This is intended to help keep you on track. So if you have just some bullet points, if you have a really rough first draft, they're all really rough in the beginning, you can still share those types of things, and that will be helpful to keep you on track for the August 16th deadline. If something comes up, your computer explodes, or I don't know, your dog runs off with it, you can talk with your FPA and talk with National Fellowship advisors about options. Just keep in communication with us, and that'll be your best bet. We're trying to help you. This is intended to be a helpful thing, not a hindrance to applying for Fulbright. June 6th is going to be our next Focus on Fulbright session. We're going to focus on asking for letters. The first 30 minutes will be asking for letters of recommendation, which is for everybody. And that's about how to ask for those really strong letters of recommendation that you'll need 3 of for your application. And then the latter half of the workshop will be more specifically about affiliation letters for study or research candidates. And then finally, just remember that National Fellowships advisors are available to meet with you and provide feedback at any time. We are working all summer, and we are happy to meet with you virtually, in person, or however works for you. So thank you so much, and good luck with your drafts.